Oh, do we have a show for you today? The James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James indictments were dismissed by a federal judge because Lindsey Halligan, Trump stooge with no federal prosecutorial experience, was appointed unlawfully. We'll go through the scathing order dismissing those two cases. Talk about Trump dismissing himself and the United States from the G20. Donald Trump was too scared to show up at the G20 in South Africa, so it went on without him and without the United States. And guess what? All of the world leaders spent their time roasting the United States and talking up the importance of multilateralism. And then when Trump wanted to send somebody to go to the closing ceremony, Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, said, nope, you didn't show up for the first days. You don't get to send anybody. We are not transferring the gavel to you in public. You can show up private, but we ain't allowing you here. We'll talk about that. Also, we'll talk about how the Trump regime tried to launder a Russian plan of surrender and how Trump tried to force it down Zelensky's throat and pass it off as though it was a plan of the United States. It seems like it was just Russia's plan translated using like Google Translate or something, and that Steve Witkoff and Kushner and Trump then gave Zelensky an ultimatum saying, you need to agree to this before Thanksgiving or else. And Zelensky said, or else what? I'm standing on business shoulder to shoulder with my European allies who actually care about Ukraine. They pushed back. They did a counter proposal, and now Russia's saying, nope, we're not supporting that one. But you see how Zelensky and Europe smoked out Donald Trump and Putin's plan. Also, the Gaza ceasefire is, I guess, officially off. I never believed it existed in the first place, based on our coverage here. I thought it was more propaganda from the Trump regime and corporate media, which called it a peace plan. I said, didn't even talk about a two-state solution. And Israel and Hamas didn't even sign the thing. What are you talking about? A peace plan? Well, over the weekend, IDF killed another 25 Palestinians, including 3 children. Then Hamas says there's no ceasefire. We'll keep you posted every step of the way there. But again, a total mess Donald Trump has been on the international stage, more fraud and fake deals. And speaking about being a mess on the international stage, Xi Jinping called Donald Trump today to say Taiwan will be part of China and you shall not say anything negative about that. And this as Xi Jinping essentially has his knee on Donald Trump's neck. You know how Xi Jinping, according to Donald Trump, said, well, I guess I shouldn't say anything according to Donald Trump, but remember when Donald Trump said that Xi Jinping and China were going to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans after they shut off buying soybeans, even though that was 15 million metric tons less than under former President Biden? Well, China's bought about 300,000 metric tons, not exactly 12.5. And so right now, Trump knows that farmers are going bankrupt. Trump knows that China has outmaneuvered him. So Xi Jinping is using this point of leverage, especially because a lot of what was talked up at the G20 is China's ascendancy and America's fall. So Xi Jinping picked this time right after the G20 to shove it in Donald Trump's face. Frankly, it's sad to see as an American, but that's what's actually happening. Also, Donald Trump keeps threatening to kill Democrats, Democratic lawmakers who said the military should not follow unlawful orders. That's just a statement of the law. The military can't follow unlawful orders like engage in war crimes. And so the Democratic lawmakers just said that. But for saying that, Trump now has the Department of Defense seeking to court-martial Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. They want to transfer him back to active duty so that they can put him before military tribunals and impose military punishments against him. This is how weak and pathetic Trump and the Department of Defense has become, attacking a decorated veteran like Mark Kelly. Also, we'll talk about Trump QAnon post. Doge no longer exists, as confirmed by the Office of Management and Budget. The U.S. government has decided it will not be showing any GDP figures for the third quarter. Trump is now dressing up like Mamdani in red turtlenecks. And after that Friday meeting, and Trump today said he was unveiling a healthcare plan, and then all of a sudden he did not unveil the healthcare plan because the Republicans revolted and rebelled when Trump was potentially going to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies, the Obamacare subsidies. All the Republicans threatened him, and Trump backed down. So, we got a lot. We didn't start the fire. It was right. Isn't that what the intro sounds like right there? It was always burning. Brett and Jordy, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to see you, Ben and Jordy. It's great to be here. Midas Mighty. You know, when I hear that intro, what I think about is weakness. I mean, I think Donald Trump lashing out, all the various things that he's doing right now shows that he is weaker than ever. You're seeing a variety of signs that show that that is the case. He's not only weak, he's compromised. You see him being laughed at by these foreign leaders, being taken advantage of by these foreign leaders because he's so easy to manipulate. He's become increasingly a joke, even inside the Republican Party here at home. You see the MAGA base fleeing. You're getting these reports now from people like Jake Sherman at Punchbowl News that the Republicans are preparing to resign. The rats are fleeing the sinking ship. That's our House Republicans. Apparently a bunch more, other than Marjorie Taylor Greene, are plotting their exit before the midterms right now. They are pissed at the White House. And I think as we kind of reflect on these past few weeks, we really are seeing the unraveling of the Trump regime from the top down. And we're seeing, uniquely to this moment, more and more Republicans breaking from Donald Trump and from the administration. I mean, we could go down the list right now of examples of these Republicans breaking from Donald Trump, whether it's the vote on Jeffrey Epstein, the Epstein files, whether it's this disastrous fiasco over the Russia-Ukraine plan, which was the Russian plan. We'll get to that shortly. Whether it's the Trump health plan, which doesn't exist, the Trump's demand that they eliminate the filibuster to end the shutdown, the $2,000 tariff rebate checks, the 50-year mortgage idea, Trump's comments on H-1B visas, his moratorium on AI that he's been pushing, his pushing of the congressional redistricting in states like Indiana, where the Republicans rebuked him. All across the country, we are seeing the unraveling of this administration, and we are finally seeing Republicans even say, enough is enough. We're not going to participate in this. And no, I'm not giving these Republicans credit. They still do not have spines. They are incredibly cowardly. But I think it's noticeable that finally, after months and months and months of them saying, yes, sir, may I have another? Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, that you're finally seeing some resistance from within the Republican Party. I think they're freaking out because they know the reality on the ground in their districts. They know how hated Donald Trump is. They know how despised he is across the country. They know that his poll numbers are bringing down their poll numbers as well. And as we've said on the show, what the hell is the point of having power if you don't use it? If you're just going to be a lackey to Donald Trump, what the hell are you even doing? So we're going to get into it all. Jordy, what's the latest on your end?
What's up, brothers? What's up, Midas Mighty? First off, Benji, be careful with that singing, big bro. It's so good. We might get like a copyright. So just watch out. And then, Brett, I wanted to comment on the Jake Sherman piece from Punchbowl that you mentioned about these congressional Republicans panicking and perhaps, just resigning before the midterms even happen, or at least a handful of them are. Like, the funniest thing to me is what I've always said, is that this modern day Republican Party run by MAGA, run by these wannabe influencers, they never wanted to actually be in power, right? They're literally the dogs who caught the car. They always, in their heart of hearts, just wanted to complain. They wanted to send out their juicy fundraising emails about how the deep state, these Democrats, they're the enemy of the American people, and that all Republicans, that all we need to do is just get into power. And once we're there, only we can fix it. But first, donate $20 to my campaign to show the Democrats how deplorable they really are. See, the issue with them, though, is they got exactly what they claimed that they always wanted. They control all three branches of government. There's nowhere to hide. What do they have to show for it? Diddly squat. Inflation, not solved. U.S. economy, not the envy of the world. Our allies despise us, and the vibes of this country are just generally at an all-time low. And now what are these Republicans going to do? They'll pull yourself up by the bootstrap party. What are these Republicans going to do? They're going to resign in the middle of the night. Pathetic and good riddance, I have to say. Benji.
Jordy, How are you? Midas Mighty, how are you? We've got a lot to discuss. Why don't we just start talking, though, about, I guess Donald Trump thought that he was I'm going to show the world by the U.S. not showing up at the G20. We're not going to go. It was the first time the G20 was held in the African continent, right? A big deal. You have President Ramaphosa of South Africa, and you think about the journey that South Africa's taken from apartheid, now being led by a Black, strong leader, and how South Africa has asserted itself in international affairs. And just think about it. Then Trump makes up just a total lie based on deranged QAnon conspiracies that South Africa is involved in a white genocide. And as a result, the United States is not showing up. It's like very much like Putin saying the reason that we're invading Ukraine is because Zelensky, who's a Jew, is a Nazi and we're going to denazify Ukraine, right? It's the same type of demented conspiratorial logic that they use as the pretext to undermine international order. But I'll tell you what went down at this G20. So immediately what took place was that the countries that were there without Trump agreed to a declaration before the G20 even officially started, because they wanted to show that we don't need the US there. We can come up with a declaration immediately because without the US, watch the world get along. Also, in the absence of the US, all the foreign countries there and all of the speakers were just roasting the U.S. How weak, how pathetic it looks. People were laughing at the U.S., mocking the U.S. You know how Donald Trump would always be like, the world's laughing at us. No, they weren't before. But here, they quite literally were laughing in the face of the United States. So I want to show you right now, for example, Professor Sachs, Columbia Law professor, Columbia Economics professor. So he was speaking on one of the nights at an event attended by these world leaders. And it was basically like a stand-up routine mocking the United States. And mind you, he's a professor at Columbia University. Here, play this clip of him.
Why isn't Donald Trump coming tomorrow? Because he has a 4-year-old mentality and he's having a tantrum. He's having a tantrum. What is the tantrum? That the rest of the world says, we don't want a king. As President Lula said, we don't need an emperor. He would come here as just one of 20 leaders, or 21. He doesn't want that. He's having a tantrum. So this rebalancing is happening. He's having a particular tantrum, by the way, because the United States is in a deeply neurotic funk. You know what the cause of that neurosis is? China. A wonderful, brilliant civilization, 4,000 years old plus.
Powerful speech by Professor Sachs right there. Let me show you what transpired at the opening ceremony of the G20 without the United States there, a declaration on multilateralism, the importance of cooperation was announced. So all of the world leaders agreed to this. Normally, the declaration happens at the end of the 2-day summit. They did it at the beginning because they were able to agree. Here's how we're going to work together on climate change. Here's how we're going to work together to uplift developing nations. Here's how we're going to work together to try to bring more peace in the world. Here's how we're going to work to, you see, on every issue. And they were showing the U.S., you're the problem right now under Trump to what the world is trying to accomplish. Watch this when the declaration was read by South African President Ramaphosa at the outset. Here, play this clip.
This G20 Leader Summit has a responsibility not to allow the integrity and the credibility of the G20 to be weakened. In fact, from this summit, we should have a sense that the G20 has been strengthened. We thank all delegations that have worked together with us in good faith to produce a worthy G20 outcome document for this historic leaders' meeting. The G20 underscores the value of the relevance of multilateralism. It recognizes that the challenges that we face can only be resolved through cooperation, collaboration, and partnership. The adoption of the declaration from the summit sends an important signal to the world that multilateralism can and does deliver. It sends a message of hope and solidarity across the world. It tells the world that as the leaders of the G20, we will keep fast to our solemn pledge to leave no person, no community, and no country behind.
That was directed clearly at the absence of the United States. One other point, Brett, then I'll pass it over to you. So next year, the G20 is happening in the United States. You know where Trump's forcing it to happen? At Doral, Trump's golf course right by Miami. So it's a particularly important G20 summit this year for the United States to attend, because the gavel is supposed to be passed from the G20 leader this year, South Africa, to the G20 leader next year, to show the continuity of multilateralism, you see. But Trump refused to show. He boycotted by lying and saying that there's a white genocide taking place. And everybody remembers when President Ramaphosa was in the Oval Office and Trump was showing him these like deranged, manipulated videos that weren't like actually showing burial sites. And President Ramaphosa was like, look, my agriculture secretary is a white guy. Like, look at him, okay? He's a white Afrikaner. Don't you think that this guy who's right here would be telling you that there was a genocide against him? If you know, so and he brought a delegation of white Afrikaners in the Oval Office saying, look around you, okay? It's not happening. And then what the agriculture secretary said is, look, yes, there is crime in South Africa, but it's against black farmers, white farmers, and it's something that we have to address. But don't call it a white genocide. And it's just such a racist and despicable way. And it just harkens back to Trump in the 1970s, right? When he and his dad would not allow black people to like go in their buildings back then, and the way they treated the way Trump's treated his black people his whole life. On the international stage, though, to see the United States be like Russia, and we'll get to that in a bit. It was frankly heartbreaking, Brett, Jordy.
Yeah, well, we're learning that a lot of this propaganda out there actually is coming from foreign countries, as was unveiled with this new Twitter feature that was released the other day that shows the country of origin of a lot of these accounts. And by the way, what we've discovered, our researchers went through posts that Donald Trump has made in recent days, spreading some of this horrific propaganda, and then looked at the origin of the accounts that Donald Trump was boosting on his own social media platform. And sure enough, they were from countries in Africa, they were from Africa, Morocco, Russia, Asia, Eastern Europe, like just all over the world, not the United States. Clearly, either people who are just trying to get paid by Twitter or are doing the bidding of somebody like Vladimir Putin, who is engaging in these bot farms. That's the propaganda that Donald Trump is pushing from his official accounts and from his Truth social media platform. But I think the subtext was very clear in that Ramaphosa clip. I mean, the world does not need the United States, and they are showing that they could have a united front without us. The subtext was screaming off the metaphorical page in that speech, and we've seen this time and time again. I mean, just think about the COP20, the COP30 summit that occurred, the climate summit. The United States refused to send a delegation to Brazil over the past few weeks for the climate summit. That's unheard of. But what happened in its place? Well, Governor Gavin Newsom showed up, and he kind of acted as a shadow president of the United States, speaking about the importance of climate and American leadership on the climate, and specifically California's leadership on the climate. And in going with what I was saying earlier about various entities, people breaking with Donald Trump. One of the ironic things at COP30 was that not only was the world united in saying, yes, climate change is an important issue and we need to get together and we need to be doing things about it, but even American corporations who had a presence at Prop 30 were defying the Trump administration and were saying, while the Trump administration may say that climate is not a serious issue, we know it's a serious issue because it's actually affecting our businesses. Reuters did this whole kind of study on COP30, and they found that 60 representatives from Fortune 100 companies showed up in Brazil, which was even more than last year's summit. And like, we're talking major players. We're talking Microsoft, Google, GM, Citigroup, Occidental Petroleum, even ExxonMobil's CEO was at the pre-COP events. Exxon CEO, better for the climate than Donald Trump. I just want you to think about that. And it's because they realize that actually understanding that the climate is a serious issue is good for business. There are jobs that come from actually pushing climate policies. They need to be ahead of climate disasters in order to prepare their supply chains and actually make sure that their products are being made. There's so many reasons. They need the farms to be working. Like the CEO of PepsiCo was there, and the chief sustainability officer of PepsiCo was there. And he was like, yeah, we need our farmers to be able to keep farming, and climate change is going to affect that if we don't do something about it. When we're seeing the job growth growing from all of these climate initiatives. So I think it's important to note that whether we're talking about the G20 or COP30 and all the other things I was speaking about at the very beginning of this episode, we are seeing people defy Trump. And a lot of the time, it's simply because what Trump is doing doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make practical sense. It doesn't make business sense. Forget about the morality that you think about these issues. It's bad for the United States. It's bad for business. It's bad for jobs. It's bad for human beings.
Well said, B. Well said. And I just also have to say, put that one on a billboard. Exxon CEO, better for climate than Donald Trump. Throw that on a billboard, put it everywhere. This goes along with what I also say a lot on the show is it's hard for me to fully comprehend what Donald Trump has done as far as the damage to the United States and of the office of the president that these other countries feel. And I don't know how we get that back as a country. And it's one of my worries for my kids' kids, and just honestly all other generations to follow us is this is a serious position, President of the United States, and it needs to be met with dignity and it needs to be met with respect. And what we're seeing is Donald Trump be made a fool of on a global stage time and time again, and it's all his fault. It's his own doing. And the issue, though, becomes, in my opinion, well, we're very closely associated with this man because he's the president of the United States. And so it is just, one of my things where I'm just like, please don't hold this against us for future generations to come. But honestly, it's going to be quite hard for some of these nations to not, Ben.
This is getting so underreported, but think about what happened this morning. Xi Jinping, the leader of China, called an American president and freaking flexed on him. You know what I'm saying? He called him from a position of strength that China has, a position of weakness that the U.S. has, and said, I want to be very clear with you, Donald. Taiwan is going to be ours. So if you want to think about doing anything with us, and we know how desperately you need us, don't you dare ever even think about mentioning Taiwan in a way that's antagonistic to us. Do you understand? That was Xi Jinping's call. And from all of my sources and what I'm hearing, it was delivered firmly and basically, you will obey and shut the hell up. Okay? And it's at a time where America right now has been completely outmaneuvered by China in terms of China putting on export controls of its rare earth elements and shutting down its market to American soybean farmers after Donald Trump and his regime was like, we're going to decouple from China. We're going to move away from China. This is our strategy. Well, your strategy is to decouple from China by initiating a trade war against the rest of the world and encouraging them to do deals with China and leave the United States. To your point, Brett, what a stupid plan is that? Just assume that you wanted to decouple from China. Why would you then attack the rest of the world? Shouldn't you cut all of the deals to isolate China if that was your plan?
Exactly.
So right now, too, one of the things that we're seeing is Japan is terrified, right? Because they're like, oh, crap, the U.S. is not going to protect Taiwan. So Japan's new far right-wing leader, Takaishi, the one who had to chaperone Donald Trump because he wasn't able to walk when he met her. Do you remember that? She said that we in Japan are going to protect Taiwan if China does anything. So because the U.S. is not saying those things anymore. So then China responded, and this was part of the phone call that was being made from Xi Jinping to Trump today. So then China said, you do that, Japan, we're going to war against you. We will easily invade you and take over right away. So don't you dare be saying those things. Just think about that. And by the way, this stuff's getting underreported. That went down today, okay? The message to Japan, what Japan did, Trump's call. And I just think when we think about our programming here on the MeidasTouch Network, it was Bernie Sanders who said to me, the most important issues are the issues that are not being discussed by the media. This stuff, to me, some of the most important stuff because it talks to the systemic destruction of America by the Trump regime. And of course, we're going to talk about the court cases and Trump doing QAnon posts and all this other stuff, but I want to talk about some of the meat right here, the systemic issues. And that's why we led with what was happening at the G20. It's why I led with the call right there with Xi Jinping. It's why Brett was talking about the climate summit in Brazil, because it shows America being a loser right now, the way Trump has turned his companies into losers. And while I'm on that topic, it should be noted, and I talked about this last episode as well, Trump's meme coin, obliterated. Like if you invested in Trump's meme coin, you probably freaking lost mostly all of your money because it looks like it was one of these pump and dump things, like just complete obliteration. Then you have Trump Media, a total wipeout, his media company that runs Truth Social. I mean, a SPAC starts at $10, and right now it's trading at $10.33%. You know how you can't reduce something by 1,700%, but despite Donald Trump, I think this stock was reduced by 1,700% because of the way people suffered as a result of how high it went up right away.
Wait, do people know what they did also, what Trump Media did? This was their big brain move as they were suffering. They've never made a profit. They lose so much money. They have no value. And if Trump did not become the president of the United States, it would have went to like zero, because its only value is in it's where Donald Trump puts his quote unquote official statements that people pick up. That's the only value this app has.
$10 is basically where it starts,
because the SPAC starts at $10. The SPAC starts at 10, so it's basically down to zero. But it would have been, I think it would go even below that if Trump didn't win. But in their big brain move, when they started losing all of this money, one of the things that they decided to do was they said, let's make a big core component of our business investing in Bitcoin. We're gonna put a lot of our money in Bitcoin. And they did it when Bitcoin was like at its near highs, and now Bitcoin has crashed. So they've lost millions and millions and millions of dollars by putting their money in Bitcoin to try to bail themselves out of their financial hole. So it's that law of holes that we keep speaking about here, and it's the innate nature of how Donald Trump handles every situation could be exemplified by that move. When they're in trouble, they dig another hole and they engage in this death spiral. It's what Donald Trump does with his companies, and it's what he does with the United States.
After this episode, by the way, we're going to take a quick break, and we got a lot more show. But after this episode, I want to highlight that we're going to be covering here live a shadow hearing. It's taking place in Los Angeles by the Democrats on the Oversight Committee about Donald Trump's unlawful immigration policies. You know, we love covering the shadow hearings. This one's led by Democratic ranking member Robert Garcia. You're not going to want to miss that. That's after this episode ends on YouTube. It'll be on our live stream. Let's take our first quick break of the show. A reminder, if you can become a member of this YouTube channel, it goes such a long way to help the growth of this independent media network. I know you're already subscribed, but by becoming a paid member, you help grow this network. You get access to the emojis that you see right here. And then I do an exclusive podcast with our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, just for our members, because I try to find creative ways to grow this independent media platform. Also, you can gift memberships to others. And I know times are tough right now, so lots of people people can't afford memberships. So if you're fortunate enough to be able to afford memberships and gift memberships, it's a great gift before Thanksgiving to give people memberships and give them access to all of the features here on the YouTube channel. All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. Woof, we covered a lot in that segment. And when we come back, we'll be covering even more. We'll see you soon. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, here to tell you we are supported by MS Now. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. These words are more than just the opening of the Constitution. They're a reminder of who this country belongs to and what we can be at our best. They're also the cornerstone of MS Now, whether it's breaking news, exclusive reporting, election coverage, or in-depth analysis. MS Now keeps the people at the heart of everything they do. Home to the Rachel Maddow Show, The Briefing with Jen Psaki, Deadline, White House with Nicole Wallace, and more voices you know and trust. MS Now is your source for news, opinion, and the world. Their name is new, but you'll find the same commitment to justice, progress, and the truth you've relied on for decades. Same mission, new name, MS Now. Learn more at ms.now. That's ms.now.
I have to tell you about this game-changing product I use before a night with drinks. It's called pre-alcohol. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Now here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on having a great next day without worrying. So I first gave pre-alcohol a try when I was at a wedding over the summer. I drank it before my first cocktail, and you wouldn't believe how on top of my game I felt the very next morning. Now fall is right around the corner, so that means it's time to raise a glass to your favorite team. Whether you're tailgating, enjoying a college game day, or watching Sunday's action on that fancy new TV, don't forget ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink. Drink a pre-alcohol before drinking and enjoy great days after celebrating all season long. Go to zbiotics.com/Meidas to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Meidas at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas at checkout for 15% off.
Jordy?
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Shout out ZBiotics, man. ZBiotics has been like a day one for us. And with the holiday season approaching, definitely check that out if you've ever been curious about it. It's A+ stuff, man. Check it out. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links. Use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, where to next?
Let's talk about how the Trump regime took Russia's plan for Ukraine to surrender that was delivered in Miami to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner by a guy named Kirill Dmitriev, Russia's special envoy to the United States, a guy who should be banned from the United States, who was just chilling, hanging out with Russian oligarchs in Miami, apparently at their hotels or whatever, just hanging out, chilling with people there. And he apparently gave this plan to Witkoff and Kushner. And then Witkoff gave it to Trump, or Witkoff just presented it to Zelensky. It seems to have gone around like the State Department or whatever. And then Trump's like, yeah, that's our plan right there. They basically seem to have translated this thing using like Google Translate or another translation app from Russian into English, because a lot of the like language was written in like a very passive Russian dialect. So people are like, this seems like it was kind of written in Russian originally and then translated into English. And then this bipartisan group of senators who were at this Halifax Security Conference in Canada, you had Democrats and Republicans there, and they called up Rubio and said, what the hell is this? We're at this security conference. We're going to be asked about this. Who's the origin of this plan? And then there was a press conference at this Halifax Security Conference by a bipartisan group of senators. So here is Republican, like very Republican, MAGA Republican Senator Mike Rounds. And here's what he had to say about his call with Rubio. And all the other senators echoed this. I'm just going to play you one person because I could just play you all of them. They're all saying the same thing. But here's what the Republican senator says that Rubio told him. Let's play it.
Secretary Rubio did make a phone call to us this afternoon. I think he made it very clear to us that we are the recipients of a proposal that was delivered to one of our representatives. It is not our recommendation. It is not our peace plan. It is a proposal that was received, and as an intermediary, we have made arrangements to share it, and we did not release it. It was leaked. It was not released by our members or our representatives.
Well, if you look at what the State Department said, and if you look at what Rubio said, after they said that, they all said, actually, this was our plan. They said it was a lie. Like this guy, Tommy Pigott, who's a State Department spokesperson, the State Department spokesperson, says this is blatantly false, referring to what the Republican senator you just heard say. This is blatantly false. As Secretary Rubio and the entire administration has consistently maintained, this plan was authored by the United States with input from both the Russians and Ukrainians. Ukraine's like, this wasn't ours. Well, why would we suggest that we give up all of Eastern Ukraine, that we can never join NATO, we can't join the European Union, that we have to demilitarize? Why would we come up with such a plan?
By the way, it wasn't like it was the one senator who possibly misheard the administration, misheard Rubio. There were many senators on this phone call. They all heard the same exact thing. Not only that, they specifically asked Marco Rubio, could we tell the public this information? Is this something that we're allowed to say publicly? And Marco Rubio said, yes, you may say this publicly. So there was no miscommunication here. Rubio said it. The senators heard it. Whether they had an R next to their name, a D next to their name, an I next to their name, didn't matter their political party. They all heard the same thing. And it doesn't help when you have an administration that quite literally lies about everything. And this is the problem with having an administration that lies about everything, that these denials ring a bit hollow after the fact once you have all these other senators telling what appears to be the truth about the situation.
Do we have Rubio's statement right here as well? Because then Rubio, after telling the senators this was not our plan, then posts on his personal account. Notice it was from his personal account, not his State Department account. I just think that's interesting. He goes, the peace proposal was authored by the U.S. It is offered as a strong framework for ongoing negotiations. It is based on input from the Russian side, but it is also based on previous and ongoing input from Ukraine. As someone who teaches negotiations, let me be very clear. You never start with your opponent's draft if you're trying to achieve your aims in a negotiation. What you should do, assume that's what you were saying. You would scrap that and you would say, here's what our plan is. Why would you start with the Russian plan of surrender? Well, in any event, Zelensky didn't just take this rolling over. The Europeans didn't take this rolling over. And I think you see how international leaders across the world, based on what we were showing at the G20, are asserting themselves now in ways they wouldn't before, as they see the U.S. as weak and pathetic under Donald Trump. So Europe said, we stand shoulder to shoulder with Zelensky and Ukraine. There is no deal unless Europe is consulted. Ukraine's not giving up all of its eastern territory. We must respect the sovereignty of Ukraine. You can't dictate that Ukraine doesn't get to join NATO or doesn't get to join the European Union. And you can't dictate that its military has to reduce in size, leaving it vulnerable to another attack from Russia. So there was another meeting that took place in Geneva on Sunday where the European leaders showed up too. And then very sheepishly, Rubio had to walk into the room there with Witkoff. And those two are at odds with each other. Like they hate each other, basically. Because just think about it. Witkoff was bringing in that. Why do you think Rubio told the senators that, right? Because it's true. And Rubio was pissed, is an understatement, at Witkoff, because Witkoff's the guy who keeps showing up in Russia. He's the guy who puts his hand to his heart right? And like goes in front of Putin. So what happened was Witkoff took the plan, basically announced it. It caught Rubio off guard, but Rubio was probably told by Trump, hey, you got to just come up with something here. So they're like, okay, let's just say that was a framework of discussion, but it wasn't the actual plan when they were trying to force it down Zelensky's throat. But you see here, when Zelensky and Europe stood on business against the Trump regime, then the Trump regime kind of backed down. And what happened was just a total mess, right? And here's the thing too, like the Trump regime, Brett, you mentioned this at the beginning, all over the place, right? But when you stand up to them, they're also very weak. And it's like, what is your plan here? Like just set aside politics. Like, just what the hell are you doing from like a position of logic, right? So like, if you support this or you support that, whatever it is, just let us know what the hell you're doing. Let there be some reliability and predictability, even if it's bad, okay? So people could at least know where you are on an issue so there could be decision making. And Donald Trump is such a loser, and he's been such a loser his whole life. And you wonder why all of his businesses have been freaking losers, because this is how he behaves. He just likes the drama and the chaos. And because he was born with a golden spoon in his mouth, he's never had to face ramifications in his life for doing stupid shit. And now people are like, dude, what are you doing? Do you like tariffs? Do you hate tariffs? You say they're great, but you're now removing them. And now you know that the price is surging. So you're removing the tariffs on coffee, but you said they were amazing. You don't want to show up at the G20, but you want to show up at the closing ceremony. And now they don't want you there. Like, what is it that you're doing? Like, you're being despicable with migrants and you're being awful, but now you say you want H-1B visas, so these migrants are bad, but Chinese students are good and American workers are bad and Indian workers are better. Like, what are you saying? Like, what do you do? But you're attacking India and you go after Modi and you tariff them, but you're saying you want their workers. Like, we just don't know what the hell we don't know what you're doing. And there's no actual consistency about it other than pure weakness. And that's my thing about him always. Has never actually been, oh, Donald Trump. Yeah, he's a, you know what? If he's a crappy, scummy billionaire who lived in Florida, there's a dime a dozen. I think I give a crap. My issue is this freaking loser, this con artist, this grifter, this scammer has brought his life of scamming and bankrupting casinos and destroying people's life, which is bad enough that that's how he was using his privilege and wealth. And now he's doing it to the United States, where now the American people are the ones who are suffering, not just the people who work for him. And we're seeing what that's like. And they can go all they want. Oh, inflation's being reduced. No, it's not. Inflation is increasing. Oh, the housing market's never been better. No, it's never been worse. Shut up. Oh, everybody's getting jobs. No, jobless claims are surging. Shut up. Stop lying. The American people know that you're an idiot right now. It's just ridiculous. A bunch of freaking buffoons right now. And the American people know it. It's why the latest polling, you look at these red states, like look at Florida. Trump's underwater in Florida. He's like 5 to 10% points underwater there. You look at this, he's underwater in Texas because he's screwing people over and over and over again. Then he comes back and he's like, oh, I did a great deal for the farmers. Look at the deal, 12 million metric tons. Xi Jinping loves me. He told me that. Well, that's still 15 million metric tons less than former President Biden was able to have our farmers sell into China. And do you know the amount? I think we have this clip, Brett, of Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins talking about this as well. But now it's been only 300,000 metric tons. The guy lies about everything. Do we have Brooke Rollins? If we have that clip, I'd love to show it.
Understand this, and tell me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that you said in the White House, it said that China was going to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans from the United States by January. We're now just about a month and a half away from that. They have, according to the USDA report, only made two big purchases, and they total in total 332,000 metric tons. How is that pledge, if that is a real pledge, and China has not confirmed that pledge, going to be made in that quick a time?
Andrew, thank you. We're actually about 1.5 million metric tons, but your point is still salient, right? That 1.5 million of 12 million, we've got a significant way to go. I know they are inking the deal this week or next week. again,
You know they are inking the deal this week. Didn't they ink the deal in May? Oh, wait a minute. That was another Trump fraud. Didn't they ink the deal in June? Oh, another fraud. What about July? Oh, another fraud. So each time he said they inked the deal, he was lying to manipulate the market. Yes, he's a con artist. He's a con artist. Like Bernie Madoff, $64 billion Ponzi scheme, right? Trump, $23 trillion Ponzi scheme. Just makes it up and screws the American people. That's what pisses me off about this guy, Brett, Jordy.
And the thing is, Donald Trump is so desperate to make a deal. And throughout his entire life, he has been referred to as a deal maker. People have lauded the art of the deal, which he himself did not even write. And I think there's an element where he's bought into his own bullshit. He's bought into this myth about him. And I use myth in the actual meaning of the term, that it's fake. It's BS. It's not real. And so I think you see an increasingly desperate Donald Trump right now doing everything he can to try to live up to that moniker that I am the deal maker. So he doesn't actually care about the specifics of the deals. And so that's one of the reasons why you're seeing so much of this chaos, because he's not a guy who's actually in the weeds. He's not a guy who cares for details. He's a lazy person also. He doesn't want to actually do the work. He just wants to get out there and say, I did it. And so when you see this Russia-Ukraine deal, this quote unquote peace deal that seems to have been clearly written by the Russian side, Donald Trump was just happy to have received a deal that he could tout as his deal, even though it was not his deal at all. It likely had none of his input whatsoever in it. But he was excited to say, look, I got a deal. And this is the issue that we're seeing also with all of these various trade negotiations. It's that Donald Trump just wants to be able to say that he makes a deal, even if that deal does not exist, which is why we're seeing all of these issues and why he keeps spiking the football even before there's any ink on paper, even before anything is written up at all, because he's so desperate to claim victory. He's so desperate to do anything to get people to like him that he ends up falling flat on his face every time. And then the death spiral happens. He starts making things worse. He starts digging deeper. And then he starts lying to the American people and saying that he made a deal and it was amazing and everything's great and farmers, you should be happy. This is the greatest economy in the world. Why are you sad? Everything's amazing. And people are realizing that their lives are not amazing right now. The farmers who are no longer selling their soybeans in the same quantities that they used to, they understand that and they do not want a government bailout. They want to be able to work. They want to be able to sell their products. And going back to Marco Rubio's statement earlier about that BS deal that they were crafting, I think there's a big tell in Rubio's statement. Let me just pull it up for 1 second here. And you can see at the end of it, it is based on input. This is Rubio. It is based on input from the Russian side, but it is also based on, and here's the key words, previous and ongoing input from Ukraine. I think that's basically a tacit admission that it does not include the current wants and desires of Ukraine happening right now, but instead they're saying, oh, we based it on what we know that Ukraine would want in the past and what in the future they may want. I mean, the whole thing is a scam. It's one big house of cards, and that's why we're seeing it all collapse right now, because the guy is a BS artist, and the BS is finally meeting reality, and it's not going well for Donald Trump.
Rubio, by the way, not that I was expecting much out of him, but has been even more disappointing than I could have thought he would be. I mean, this is someone who actually probably has even higher aspirations for political office and was trying to parlay his position in the Trump regime to lead him to that next step. But once again, he's being exposed here on a global stage for his lack or lack of handling the situation. Andrew Sorkin, the only bright star on Squawk Box, so shout out Sorkin. And for Donald Trump, Brett, going back to the soybean farmers, which you were mentioning before, look, as I said earlier, the fact is the Republicans control all three branches of government. So Donald Trump no longer has the Democratic Party to pin as his heel. He can't blame everything on them. So what is he doing? He's looking at the soybean farmers and saying, your lives are great. And if they're not, you're lying and you're a Democrat and you don't, it blows my mind that anyone could like this guy. And you know what? People don't anymore, right? We're seeing the approval rankings just tanking day by day. And the fact of the matter is he just continues to blame others for his inability to help the American people. And this is only going to continue to get worse as the administration and as time goes on. It's not going to get better for him and for this country until he's taken out of office with the reelection of a Democrat and putting him in there and putting some sanity back in office.
Look, he's polling right now 36, 37%, 38% across like all polls. I mean, especially when you ask, like, what's your view of Donald Trump handling the economy? It's like 36%. That used to be like their issue of the Republicans. And I never understood why it was their issue. Probably because they would coast off the economies that Democrats left them, like Clinton would leave to George W. Bush. It's easy for the first few years to ride that wave when you actually have a freaking surplus that Clinton left you with, or the way Obama handed off a great economy to Trump, where he could just coast off of. And Trump did coast off of it until he had to actually deal with a challenge when COVID hit, although Trump was screwing up some things before, laying the foundation for even more disasters when COVID would have hit. But I think inevitably Trump's first term, if there wasn't COVID, which accelerated certain things, and it was Trump's mishandling of it that also did that. Remember, like a miracle, it's all going to go away. I think we would have started to see some of the stuff that we're seeing now as well. But, Trump's posting away his QAnon post. Q's going to come for us and save us. I mean, literally, like, just for our audio listeners, I'm just showing you a bunch of straight up QAnon posts that just say Q on them. Time to obliterate the deep state. Nothing can stop what's coming, with like a weird Guy Fawkes mess. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Military tribunals are coming for you. I mean, it literally says QAnon. Thanks, Q, with like photos of Donald Trump. So he's posting that. And then he goes, I've just gotten the highest poll numbers of my political career. Then he goes, the economy is rocking. Stopping wars. Foreign relations seems to be a strong suit. This is actual posts that he's making. And then he sends to his supporters emails like this. Tariff rebate check? Ben, should I give a tariff rebate savings to you? And it's a photo of Donald Trump holding $100 bills and saying, this is the only tariff rebate email authorized by Trump. Like, you couldn't even make a parody of a con artist this farcical and this ridiculous, but it's actually true that he's doing photos. You want me to give you these rebate checks, everybody? Remember, it was the Doge dividend checks. Everyone was going to get $5,000, but now Doge was shut down. Federal spending is more under Trump than it was under former President Biden.
Yeah, I'm sure that, to be fair, I'm sure they were just days away from issuing those checks. And then there were forces beyond their control that just they couldn't get them out.
The Doge dividend checks, but then the Democrats focused on the Epstein hoax.
Let me just tell you one of the craziest things, too. So this tariff rebate email from Donald Trump, right? I want you to look at it right now for the people watching and the people listening. I'm going to remind you what the image is of. The image is of Donald Trump holding a stack of $100 bills, and it says, this is the only tariff rebate email authorized by President Trump. The subject is tariff rebate check. Ben, should I give tariff savings back to you? Now, what do you think this email does? The email asks for money. So you click on it, and Donald Trump is holding money in your face of his supporters. And he goes, I got this money for you. But one thing first, give me money. And give me money now. And I'll give you all this. See this money in my hand? That later. Later that goes to you. But for now, pay me. And like, don't people see the scam? What's going on right now? It's the most obvious scam.
What do they say? It's like shooting fish in a barrel, but it's like Trump fishing for like stupid fish in a barrel, right? It's like, I got something for you. And then the MAGA mush brain follows. Like, That's me being a fish and then biting on this stuff. Oh, you got me again. Another one. You tricked me. How do I keep falling for it? Do you want to join my VIP club? You got me. I mean, he keeps fishing in the same barrel, and the MAGA mush people just keep falling for the thing. Like, yo.
Did you see? I don't have the story in front of me, but oh my God, there was like somebody who was like running for office, like some Republican, and he listed himself like on his resume or on his website as like being like official Trump delegate or something. What was it? Cabinet member?
Trump. Yeah, it was like part of Trump's like cabinet member group or whatever. And they're like, you're saying that you're a cabinet member? And the guy's like, yeah. They're like, you're not a member of his cabinet. What are you talking about? He's like, I got the email. And then the reporter's like, you actually think that you are part of his cabinet because he sent you an email? And the guy's like, yeah. And then the guy sent like another thing, like, I'm also part of his like da-da-da-da club. And the reporter's like, well, I didn't think it was going in this direction. I just thought you were going to be exposed like as a total fraud. But we actually now see that you believed Donald Trump's fraud, that you're part of his cabinet. All right, we got to take MAGA fish off. We got to take our last quick break.
Got him.
We got him. You got me again. Oh. We'll take our last quick break. For those listening, that was my fish impression. We'll take our last quick break of the show. A reminder, hit subscribe and become a member. Join. Help us grow this independent media platform, and you can gift as many memberships as you want to others. If you're able to afford that, it really helps. It goes a long way to build our platform, and people love the gift of a Meidas Mighty membership on the YouTube channel. Also, make sure you subscribe on audio to the MeidasTouch Podcast and leave a 5-star review there. And a reminder, when this show ends, we will be streaming the shadow hearing that the Democrats in the House Oversight Committee are holding about Trump's unlawful immigration raids. You're not going to want to miss that. Let's take our last quick break of the show.
My old wallet used to be this giant crusty leather brick that was falling apart. My back even began to hurt because I was sitting so uneven. This is why I switched over to Ridge, and you should too. Ridge is unique, slim, modern design that holds up to 12 cards plus cash. It's made with premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. Ridge comes in over 50 plus colors and styles to choose from, and all Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. This is literally the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. Also, it gives me peace of mind knowing that Ridge wallets have RFID blocking technology, keeping you safe from those digital pickpocketers. Ridge also has over 100,000 5-star reviews. No matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty on all their products. For a limited time, Ridge is having their huge Black Friday sale. Head to RIDGE.com to get up to 47% off your order. This is by far the biggest discount they've given all year. That's Ridge.com for up to 47% off your order during their biggest sale of the year. After the purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know MeidasTouch sent you.
It seems like you hear about a new round of layoffs every day. What's the best way to dodge the next round? Get the skills that companies are desperate to hire for. This podcast is sponsored by Udacity. Want to learn skills that command high salaries? Udacity is an online learning platform with courses in AI, tech, including generative AI, agentic AI, Python, data science, and much more. Instead of wasting your time on the internet or prompting ChatGPT, Udacity removes the guesswork so you learn what you need to know and nothing that you don't. When you learn with Udacity, you're not just passively watching videos or reading articles. You're doing practical exercises and projects that prepare you for the job you want. That's why 90% of Udacity graduates say that they achieve their enrollment goal. Last week, I tried Udacity's course on data structures and algorithms. I love learning a new lucrative job skill while sitting at home in my pajamas. Udacity lets me sharpen old tech skills and learn new ones, so I'm ready to take on the latest and greatest challenges. I love that with Udacity, you're learning AI, but with human support. I don't feel like I'm doing it on my own. Whenever I'm stuck or need feedback, I have people to turn to. I love that Udacity has a network of over 1,000 mentors available to give tailored feedback on my projects. It creates a really personalized learning experience. When you have a certification from Udacity, recruiters and employers, they take notice. So for a better job, better salary, and better skills, check out Udacity today. The tech field is always evolving, and you should be too. You can try Udacity risk-free for 7 days. Head to udacity.com/Meidas and use code Meidas for 40% off your order. Once again, that's udacity.com/Meidas for 40% off, and make sure you use my promo code Meidas so they know that I sent you. Now that the days are short and crisp, I find myself craving comforting, home-cooked meals. Home Chef makes it easy with their oven-ready options and hearty recipes that hit the spot without me stressing over what's for dinner. Home Chef is rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. Home Chef makes cooking simple, fresh food delivered, easy recipes to follow, and meals that actually taste great. And now with Gordon Ramsay's exclusive recipes on the Home Chef menu, you can enjoy 5-star meals without the stress. Choose from Gordon Ramsay's co-branded dishes featured across Home Chef's culinary collection, classic meal kits, and express options, each crafted to make you feel like a chef in your own kitchen. Whatever kind of day it is, classic recipes with fresh ingredients, 30-minute meals, oven-ready trays, or quick microwave options, Home Chef has you covered. There's even a dedicated family menu for hassle-free delicious dinners. And it's not one size fits all. Home Chef has over 30 meal options each week with choices for different diets and tastes. Plus, it's affordable. Home Chef customers have an average of $86 per month on groceries. Now, I love Home Chef. I can't recommend it strongly enough. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box plus free desserts for life. Go to homechef.com/Meidas. That's homechef.com/Meidas for 50% off your first box and free desserts for life. Homechef.com/Meidas. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there is an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, where to next?
Let's talk about the dismissal of the James Comey and Letitia James indictments as a result of Lindsey Halligan not being lawfully appointed. She was the only person inside the grand jury room when both indictments were obtained by the grand jury. This ruling does not get into all of the other misconduct and perhaps worse that Halligan was committing in the grand jury room. So in many ways, Halligan may be breathing a sigh of relief. Woof. Fortunately, I was just unlawfully appointed, and they didn't even get to the point of what I did. They told me I shouldn't have been in the room in the first place. Imagine when that becomes your barometer for a win, that you didn't even belong in the room, yet alone what you actually did when you're in the room. But don't worry, I think what she did when she was in the room will eventually get before various bar organizations in the future for Halligan, because it was so patently wrong. However, this was just saying you shouldn't have been in the room. You were not appropriately appointed as an interim United States attorney because there was someone who was already previously a United States attorney on an interim basis in the Eastern District of Virginia. So Biden's pick, who was the United States attorney for Virginia, left, for the Eastern District of Virginia, left. Then Trump appointed somebody, a Republican, a career prosecutor named Eric Siebert. Eric Siebert served the requisite period of time on an interim basis. There's just a time limit. After the time limit, the judges like this guy, Siebert. And the judges are made up of Trump-appointed judges, Obama judges, Reagan judges, George H.W. Bush judges, Clinton, Biden, Obama, all the right bipartisan. They said, we like this guy. And under the statute, under the law, the district court judges can extend the person's term longer than the term limit to give more time for the president to finish the appointment and confirmation function under the Constitution. The president appoints these high officers, and then the Senate confirms. The Senate wanted to confirm Eric Siebert. They liked him. Virginia has 2 Democratic senators. So the first thing that Donald Trump didn't like is that Virginia's Democratic senators liked the Republican choice that I guess Trump liked at first, right? Because Trump picked the guy, Eric Siebert. And the Democratic senators, look, we may disagree with you on issues, but you know what? We think that you're competent. You've worked in the office for a long period of time. The Eastern District of Virginia does serious work, counterterrorism, espionage work, public integrity work. We need a career person who knows what they're doing. And then Trump's like, whoa, the Democratic senators like this guy? So maybe I don't like the guy that I picked. It's like, you picked him. And then Trump's, all right, Siebert, I need you to go after Comey and James and my political opponents and Schiff and others. And then Eric Siebert's like, there's no evidence at all. No, Like there's no crimes that were committed. I'm a Republican. I'm your pick. Okay. If I thought there was a crime, I would pursue it. But there was no crimes here. And Siebert wrote a memo into the file saying no crimes. Trump's own pick, the Republican interim United States attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, wrote a memo, which, by the way, as of this point, Trump's DOJ has refused to turn over to Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, which says no crimes. So just think about it in a case where the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt to prove someone's guilt. Just think about if the case went to trial. You call up like an FBI agent if you're the defense lawyer. I'd like to show you a memo. Have you seen this one before? And then like the DOJ witness goes, yep. And it's written by the prosecutor's office for this district, right? Like the people who are sitting there who were fired, but it was written by them. Yep. And it says that there were no crimes committed. Yep. And this is the top prosecutor saying there was no crimes committed. Yep. All right, jury, I think we found reasonable doubt, okay, where the prosecutor said that there's no crimes committed. So just think, even if the case were to be brought, what that would look like in front of a jury where the prosecutor had previously said no crimes. But because Eric Siebert said no crimes and wrote that memo, Trump fired him, forced him out. Nobody wanted to pursue the case against New York Attorney General Letitia James and Comey. So Trump appointed a beauty pageant contestant turned insurance lawyer who Trump found, at Mar-a-Lago or something, who he made his personal lawyer, Lindsey Halligan. She has no experience as a federal prosecutor at all. Didn't even intern. Okay. Who even knows if she read a book on being a federal prosecutor? And he goes, you're now the lead federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of Virginia with zero experience. She goes in the grand jury room alone, commits all of that misconduct, secures the indictment. But here's the thing. The law says you can only pick one interim United States attorney without there being an appointment and confirmation. Okay. And here, that one pick Trump got was Eric Siebert, the Republican. That was Trump's pick. You don't get two bites at the apple. What do you have to do if you want somebody else? Well, he could have brought Lindsey Halligan before the Senate and got her confirmed, but no one's going to confirm someone with zero experience. Or you could have brought somebody else in. What could Lindsey Halligan and the DOJ have done if they were worried about Halligan's unlawful appointment? Send in any other prosecutor into the grand jury room. But what does it tell you? That the only prosecutor at the DOJ in the entire United States that Trump could field to go into that grand jury room was Lindsey Halligan, who had never been a prosecutor before. So the first motion to dismiss by Comey and James was Trump already had an interim United States attorney, Siebert, and you can't pick two. That's what the law says. The Constitution otherwise requires that there be appointment and confirmation. Appointment clause violation. Simple as can be. And we've seen cases like this across the country, right? Alina Habba, for example, unlawful United States attorney in New Jersey. She's been disqualified, and she just basically squats now in that office and pretends to be the United States attorney. It's super weird. In the Central District of California, at least the guy who Trump tried to appoint here doesn't call himself the United States attorney of Central District of California anymore, but he's still in the office. And we've seen this in lots of other offices as well. I think Nevada and others, where Trump's picking somebody who's an interim and their time limit expires. Okay. So this was a pretty basic decision that we knew was going to happen. And if the court did not disqualify Halligan on this basis, then we would have gotten to all those other issues, all of the misconduct in front of the grand jury. We didn't even have to get there. The fact that Halligan got an indictment that she never even showed to the grand jury and just had the foreperson sign a document that the grand jury never saw in violation of Rule 6E of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, or Rule 6 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure. We didn't even have to get there. Or the fact that the agent who testified against Comey was not allowed to testify because he was exposed to attorney-client information, or the fact that Halligan gave the grand jury false legal instructions. All separate grounds, which would have resulted in the dismissal. But this was saying you shouldn't have been in the room in the first place, and you brought nobody else in the room with you from the DOJ. So therefore, there's nobody else on this document. So the case gets dismissed. Now, the case was dismissed without prejudice, which means the DOJ can re-bring it. Except in Comey's case, the statute of limitations has expired. So yes, the Trump regime can try to appeal it, but the Fourth Circuit was the one who assigned the disqualification motions to Judge Curry, and Judge Curry was the judge who made this decision. It's a separate judge who decides disqualification issues because potential conflicts of interest issues. I won't make it more complicated other than the Fourth Circuit picked this judge to make this determination. So the Fourth Circuit ain't going to go along with it. The Supreme Court, I highly doubt, is going to go along with it. By the way, if you're Halligan, believe it or not, you're probably hoping that this sticks. And she's probably like, oof, we didn't get to the other issues yet. Like, thank God I was unlawfully appointed. I bet you secretly that that's what she's thinking, even though what a ridiculous way to think about these issues. Like, I bet you privately her family's like, well, at least they didn't get to those issues. I know I dodged the bullet on that one. But that's how pathetic this regime is. Now, with Letitia James, the statute of limitations has not expired. So they can bring the case against Letitia James again. It would be a horrible case. Like, we know it's based on like a second mortgage, but the Fair Housing Department administration, their internal memos from all of the people who saw this case, they said there's no case, she did nothing unlawful, and they all got fired. So not only in Letitia James' case, if it were to ever go to a trial, would you say, well, the former top federal prosecutor said there was no case, but also the agency that oversees mortgages, their internal documents said there was no case. And then Trump and Bill Pulte, his stooge who he put in charge, then fired all of the people who said there were no crimes committed by James. And if you're James's lawyer, you would just put on those people as witnesses and say, you wait a minute, you saw no crimes? Yup. And they fired you? Yup. All right, no further questions. What about the federal prosecutor? You saw no crimes? Yup. So she'll get this case dismissed if they rebring it. But the question for her is, now that people saw what Halligan did, now that Halligan's disqualified, what lawyer is going to go to that grand jury room and sacrifice their legal license right now? Who's going to do it? Like, it would be the stupidest thing. Literally, it's basically like you show up, you lose your bar license at this point. So we have Caroline Leavitt is asked, does the president still have confidence in Lindsey Halligan? After all that I just told you, right? Let's take a look at what she says here. Let's play this clip.
By Thursday. And then on the Comey and James case, does the president still have confidence in Lindsey Halligan?
Absolutely, he does, to your second question.
What about Trump's reaction to the indictments getting thrown out? Let's play it.
What was President Trump's reaction to those indictments against Comey and James being thrown out?
His reaction was, we've seen this before. We've seen partisan judges take unprecedented steps to try to intervene in accountability before, but we're not going to give up. And I know that the Department of Justice intends to appeal these rulings very soon. If they haven't already, I may have missed it.
By the way, this is why I utterly despise this regime, for answers like that. Do you see what I just laid out for you? I hope a coherent, cogent, nonpartisan explanation about what happened here. And it would have been very easy not to do what Halligan and the DOJ did here. If you were going to even bring this ridiculous case and you wanted to avoid what just happened, just bring somebody else with the DOJ into the grand jury room, right? Just go about that. Like, and then you could have dealt with it, that way. But of course they don't do that. And then they go and whine for their loser behavior. Then a reporter says, is the president more determined now since these rulings to go after them, to go after Comey and James? Watch this despicable answer. Let's play it.
So Caroline, is the president more determined now since the judge's ruling today to go after James Comey and Tish James? And if so, why?
I wouldn't say he's going after them. I think the president is more determined than ever to see accountability in this country, yes, and to correct the wrongs of the weaponization of our justice system that we saw under the previous administration and Joe Biden.
Are we entering a new...
Now, let's take a look right here at what Caroline Leavitt says about the White House now supporting an effort by Pete Hegseth and the Department of Defense. I don't call it the Department of War because, again, that's not what its name is. That they are now plan to re-enlist Senator Mark Kelly, who's a decorated fighter pilot, astronaut, now senator, so that they can court-martial him and bring him before military tribunals because he stated that the military can't follow unlawful orders, which is just a restatement of the law. Here, play this clip.
Mark Kelly, and what do you make of his response that it's just intimidation?
The White House is supportive of the Department of War's investigation into Senator Mark Kelly, and I think what Senator Mark Kelly was actually trying to do was intimidate the 1.3 million active duty service members who are currently serving in our United States Armed Forces with that video that he and his Democrat colleagues put out. Senator Mark Kelly well knows the rules of the military and the respect that one must have for the chain of command, and that all lawful orders are presumed to be legal by our service members. You can't have a functioning military if there is disorder and chaos within the ranks, and that's what these Democrat members were encouraging.
No, they were saying don't follow unlawful orders. And we know the top military JAG lawyer of Southcom in that region where these war crimes are taking place stated that these killings are extrajudicial war crimes. And the DOJ overruled what the military lawyers were actually saying. So now everybody in that chain of command are engaging in war crimes and expose themselves to war tribunals at a future date. Now, I just want to show this for you as well, because a reporter then asked Caroline Levitt about, did Trump speak with Jair Bolsonaro, the former leader of Brazil, the day before he was arrested? Over the weekend, Bolsonaro was arrested for trying to escape Brazil. Bolsonaro led that insurrection the way Trump led an insurrection, except in Brazil, the Supreme Court held Bolsonaro accountable and sentenced him to 20 plus years in prison. And he's about to serve his prison soon. But apparently, according to Trump, Trump was speaking with Bolsonaro over the weekend. Not sure if Trump wanted to admit that, but I guess while that was going on, Bolsonaro was planning to escape. And then that was caught by the Brazilian authorities while Lula, the president of Brazil, was at the G20. But now here's what Caroline Levitt says. Let's play it.
Caroline, one question on Venezuela. Is there any plan, meeting for this week on Venezuela? And another one, a clarification on this weekend, because the president was asked about the former Brazilian president being arrested, and he mentioned that he spoke with this gentleman. Did he speak with Bolsonaro the day before he was arrested?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know if that call took place or not. It may have. I can get you a firm answer on that, Raquel. I know it's of great importance to you for your reporting. As for meetings on Venezuela, there's meetings on...
Now let me just show you what Trump said over the weekend when he said he spoke to Bolsonaro last night and plans to meet with him soon. It's Trump's own words. Here, play this clip.
About Bolsonaro's arrest? Say it. Do you have any comment about Bolsonaro's arrest? A former Brazilian president. So I spoke last night to the gentleman you just referred to, and we're going to be meeting, I believe, in the very near future.
Sir, are you willing about the president being arrested today?
What?
Any comment about the former Brazilian president being arrested today?
No, I don't know anything about it.
Are you willing? Mr. President, are you willing?
I didn't hear. Is that what happened?
Yes, there's a Mr.
That's too bad. That's too bad. No, I just think it's...
So either two things happened. One, just Donald Trump reflexively lies to the press. He didn't hear what they were saying. So he said, yeah, I spoke to him, just the way Donald Trump lies about fake conversations with Xi Jinping and other world leaders, and didn't realize that Bolsonaro was arrested for trying to escape. Or Donald Trump was quite literally speaking with Bolsonaro while the escape was taking place. Okay, that's where we've been reduced to as the United States of America right there. Brett and Jordy, I know I covered a lot of ground right there, but I wanted to tie all those concepts together.
I would say neither of those options are great for the country, for everything. I really have nothing else to add. That was a great breakdown of all the chaos, but it just goes back to the incompetence of this administration and the fact that they just lie about everything. They lie to cover their tracks. They lie to cover another lie, and it's just a Russian nesting doll of lies. No pun intended, or maybe pun intended. I don't know, but it's why they have zero credibility in this country. It's why they have zero credibility on the global stage, and it's just so shameful for somebody like a Caroline Levitt to go out there, and this is how she behaves every day. It's so shameful for them to go out there and try to attack somebody as decorated as Senator Mark Kelly and try to re-enlist him and court-martial him. It's like, shut up. And then there was this whole ironic bit also, because what do those senators say? Exactly what you said, Ben. They said simply, just as a reminder to our military, make sure that you're following the law. make sure that you're following your oath and that the orders that you are agreeing to do are constitutional orders. And then Donald Trump, in some bizarre way, tried to post like an image that he thought was proving his point, and so he posted this plaque of the about the Constitution. It says "Loyalty to the Constitution," and literally one of the lines on the very plaque that Donald Trump posted says the following, quote, "Our American Code of Military Obedience requires that, should orders and the law ever conflict, our officers must obey the law." That is quite literally the same exact thing, basically word for word, that those senators said in that video that Donald Trump is now referring to as sedition against the United States, and that he is using as a predicate to court-martial or try to court-martial Senator Mark Kelly. So I guess by Donald Trump's own definition here, did he just commit sedition against the United States by posting those same words? I understand that he might have a little bit of trouble reading there, but it would seem to be the case that Donald Trump is now accidentally accusing himself of sedition. I'm just trying to follow the logic here. I mean, I know he did engage in seditious behavior before, so it wouldn't be a surprise, but it just shows you how ridiculous this whole regime is. They have no credibility. It's all crazy.
Jordy, anything else you want to say?
Well, the only thing that I have a question for you quick, Ben. So what I don't fully understand about the Halligan situation is why the judge made the ruling to Comey without prejudice. Now, I know you said the statute of limitations they passed, but then why make that ruling?
Because it's not a merits. It would only be with prejudice if it was with prejudice based on the merits, based on a review of the facts, because it's procedural in nature. And technically the procedure could be cured. It's not for the judge to make a ruling right now on statute of limitations, right? The judge simply says, this comes to me on a procedural issue. This is done without prejudice, meaning you can bring it again. I'll just give you another example. In some of these other cases, like in California or in New Jersey, where there were motions to disqualify the United States Attorney Haba and the guy in California, the court dismissed without prejudice, and then they refiled, or because there were other people at the DOJ who worked on the case, who were on the indictment, it didn't function as a dismissal. So technically, without prejudice is the right move. You'd have to wait for there to be a statute of limitations motion filed. The court's not going to hear things that aren't in front of it, right? And so it's not for anybody, or in this case, Comey's lawyer, to anticipate that a future defective indictment will be brought past the statute of limitations. Right now, this indictment was before the statute of limitations. And so you can't move to dismiss on statute of limitations grounds now. What would have to happen is the DOJ tries to file it again, and then you move to dismiss on statute of limitations. Now, who knows? Maybe the DOJ will try to make some frivolous argument that, look, Pam Bondi retroactively endorsed it, and so therefore there was tolling on the whatever. They're going to lose on that if they try to bring it again with Comey, but you have to represent this issue to a grand jury. And then now a future prosecutor would then have to, because of their duty of candor, they'd have to disclose the date and the statute of limitations issue to the grand jury. I think they'd have a duty of candor. So in essence, it's with prejudice, but the court is using the terminology without prejudice because technically that's all the court is able to control right now, if that makes sense.
See, it's helpful to have an older brother that's a lawyer that could explain things the way I understand them. Thanks, B.
Well, anyway, I appreciate it. Well, we covered a lot on this episode. We're grateful for you, Meidas Mighty. We really are. I want you to I want you to reflect on what you've accomplished. I really mean that, because we're in a position right now heading into Thanksgiving where I feel there's so much momentum, and my feelings are contradictory to last Thanksgiving. And I wrote a Substack about this. So you go to MeidasPlus.com to check it out, because last Thanksgiving, the country was doing so much better, but I had this feeling of so much dread. And this Thanksgiving, the country is doing so much worse, future, and getting past Trump and this MAGA virus. I feel hope about a path out. So it's grappling with those contradictory feelings, but the resistance and the opposition to Trump has never been stronger. And as I reflect on one Thanksgiving to the other about how Trump wanted to crush us, to crush you, to crush this movement, and this movement is stronger than ever, that's a testament to you hanging in there, building up independent media, helping to promote all of the groups that are on the ground, doing the heroic work of organizing and leading peaceful protests and all of that. So, it's also why we turn our lens on the MeidasTouch Network to these shadow hearings too, because corporate news ain't covering it. And these are the stories that need to be told. We've always covered the shadow hearings. We've covered the Bernie rallies, all the Fight the Oligarch rallies we've been covering. We've always covered the protests when corporate news tried to suppress it. And we showed where the audience is, because the audience loves democracy. The people want their freedom. The people want empathy. The people want to uplift marginalized communities. The people want to stand together. The people want to love and not hate. And sure, there are hateful people in this country, but that's not what our country is all about. And so I think that's where we lean into, and that's a message that we take with us this week on Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for this movement. I'm thankful for this community. I'm thankful for all the fighters out there. I'm thankful, and grateful. So as soon as this ends, go check out the shadow hearings that we're covering live here on the MeidasTouch Network. Check that out. Remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, join the YouTube channel by becoming a member if you can, and gift memberships to others. You can gift as many memberships as you can to other people who may not be able to afford memberships. So do that if you can. Subscribe to the MeidasTouch Podcast on audio. It really helps our audio rankings when you subscribe there, even if you don't plan on listening on audio. I think you'll like it on audio, and our audio listeners have a great experience. But subscribe there. Audio listeners, try out YouTube if you want to see what me, Brett, and Jordy look like from time to time. You want to see some of the visuals, subscribe to YouTube. Leave a 5-star review as well on the audio podcast. Again, that helps us so much when you leave that 5-star review. It helps with the algorithm there. It helps uplift the show. We've covered a lot, covered about all. We'll keep you posted. Keep checking in for the hot takes that we're doing throughout the day. Thank you. We're thankful for you. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
Standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.